Kids 24/7 radio. And Kids 24/7 radio.
Welcome to the Stephon Devereux Show. I want to thank you for joining us, and we're going to get right into it right now. Pittsburgh Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin fired. That's what you wanted to hear. That's what you want to hear, hi, Steeler fans. Well, I'm going to be the first to tell you that it's not going to happen. Yeah, it's not going to happen. See, the Pittsburgh Steelers, they're a smart organization. 3 coaches in the past 50 years. This is what the Pittsburgh Steelers have done. And you know what they don't do? They don't fire coaches when they have time left on their contracts. Mike Tomlin currently has 1 year left on his contract. But we're going to talk about what Mike Tomlin needs to do so he's not fired next year. And we're going to talk about what the team that he's coaching needs to do so he's not fired next year. I'm going to start off with one person that people hate when I bring up, but I don't give a damn. You know why? Because this guy needs to be brought up. See, when you give a quarterback $100 million, not once but twice, you're expecting this quarterback to deliver some things called like a Super Bowl, and he did the first time around. Before he got his first $100 million contract, they paid him nicely because he won 2 Super Bowls. So he got paid again. And since Ben Roethlisberger's been paid again, Ben Roethlisberger has not been to the Super Bowl. Why is that? Well, we're going to start the obvious. Turnovers. Ben Roethlisberger is one of the most intercepted quarterbacks in the National Football League. The reason why he's not brought up the way others like Eli Manning and Phillip Rivers sometimes, and these are guys who were in his draft class that year. Shouts out to J.P. Loseman. Anyway. But Ben Roethlisberger, the reason why he's not brought up in the same breath as those guys when it comes to turnovers is because Ben Roethlisberger finds a way to win games. Now, that's all well and good. You found ways to win games. But sometimes you are the person who's putting your team in these positions to where you got to climb out of a hole. Look, I'm not going to sit here and say Ben Roethlisberger is a bad quarterback. Ben Roethlisberger is a Hall of Fame quarterback. 2-time Super Bowl winning champion. Should have been an MVP in that second Super Bowl. But he's a 2-time winner. Been to 3. And we want to talk about he should be a 3-time winning Super Bowl winning quarterback. The reason why he's not 3 times is because he turned the ball over against Green Bay in that Super Bowl. Pick 6, remember? Anyway, I'm not going to get into Rashard Mendenhall. He will never be spoken of on this show again. But the problem with Ben Roethlisberger is he turns the ball over a little too much. For instance, last year against Jacksonville, the first Jacksonville game, not the second, the first Jacksonville game, he threw 5 interceptions in that game. Afterwards, he was talking about, well, maybe I don't have it anymore. Ben, it's not the point what I'm about to bring up, but you don't have it anymore. You're not the same quarterback that you was 10 years ago, 5 years ago. You're not. That's nothing against you. That's no knock against you, Mr. Roethlisberger. That's no knock. But the problem is you're not the same quarterback that you were 10 years ago, 5 years ago. I know. Sad to see. But the thing about Ben Roethlisberger is that I will say about this great quarterback is that he always takes the blame. Oh, what? Never mind. No, he doesn't always take the blame. Accountability is one of his problems. He will point the finger at everyone else except for himself. He will point the finger at himself when a good play happens, but let's say last year in New England, or when we played New England last year, Heinz Field, what happened with Ben Roethlisberger? What happened with our great quarterback? Got his team down there, yes, Jesse James, it should have been a catch, I know. But let's be real, it wasn't a catch. They didn't call it a catch, so the quarterback had the opportunity to do what? What did he have the opportunity to do? At least win the game. We all know what happened. He threw an interception, and he says, he goes back during the press conference, the coaching staff, blah, blah. Come on, man. There's a guy there in New England that when mistakes happen, no matter what happens on his offense, mistakes happen, he takes the blame for everything. Guy drops the ball, I should have threw the ball a little bit faster, or I should have threw it in positions where it would be a better catch. This is what he says. This is who Tom Brady is. Ben Roethlisberger's not that. Ben Roethlisberger says that he's going to continue to throw interceptions. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I'm paraphrasing, but he still said that. He's going to continue to throw the ball the way he does, even if it puts his team in harm's way. I know. So until this quarterback decides that stats is not more important than winning, and that when you throw interceptions, you help keep your team from winning. Case in point, Denver. Case in point, San Diego. Damn near lost the Jacksonville game, let's be real. Threw an interception in the New England game. Cincinnati, here at home. He throws a pick six, season on the line. He throws a pick six. That offense scored 16 points. Your quarterback has to do better. Until Ben Roethlisberger decides that this is his team, he's the leader. Any mistake that he makes can put this team in harm's way. Until Ben Roethlisberger realizes that, the Pittsburgh Steelers will not make the playoffs next year either. Let's move on. I'm not done with Mike Tomlin yet. I promise. I'm not. I am not done with Mike Tomlin. But let's move on. Kevin Colbert. Kevin Colbert, please step down. Just please step down. I am tired of hearing people tell me that, Mike Tomlin does this as a coach, and Mike Tomlin, but no one ever brings up the GM. See, this GM, and from what I am hearing, he has 75% of the drafting power with this team, 75% of the signing power with this team. So Mike Tomlin gives his input, and if Kevin wants to go another way, he has the right to do that because he's the GM. Director of Football Operations, Vice President, whatever you want to call him, he builds this team for Mike Tomlin to coach. Now, Kevin Colbert he's hit it a few times. He's hitting it right in the place where, let's say, if you're building a team around your quarterback, home runs out the park every time, practically every time. The receivers, incredible. Juju. James Washington's looking like he could be a star. Antonio Brown, they got that guy in the 6th round. They drafted Emmanuel Sanders. Emmanuel Sanders is over there in Denver. He was balling. These guys know how to draft wide receivers. Except for Lima Swede. Martavis Bryant was a superstar. He just couldn't stay off the weed, like my man Stephen A. says. Sad, but true. Kevin Colbert can draft some linebackers, but how much can we? The Steelers have always drafted linebackers, okay? Steelers have forever drafted linebackers. Good to great linebackers. We can go down the list, but there's no point because you already know these guys. But let's remind you of the ones that Kevin Colbert has drafted that didn't pan out. Jarvis Jones. Yeah, I don't have to say another word. I can just say Jarvis Jones. One of the narratives that goes around is they say people, well, Mike Tomlin, he won a Super Bowl with Cowher's players. True. Cowher won with Knowles players. But here, I'm going to give Kevin Colbert and Mike Tomlin a bone here. 2007, Tomlin's first draft. First two picks, Lawrence Timmons, Lamar Whitley. A year later, championship. Lamar Whitley and Lawrence Timmons, two linebackers, they played a very big part in that championship run. People forget that. If Lawrence Timmons didn't eat his way out of Pittsburgh, Lawrence Timmons would probably still be here. They gave him a lot of money, which I don't think was the smart thing to do when they did it. I said it then. It was not smart. Let him wait. They gave him a lot of money. He ate his way out of Pittsburgh. Then eventually ate his way out of the league. Now, I can go on with all the other draft picks that these guys have missed on, but I'm sorry. Let's go with the free agents. Recently, Joe Hayden, that was a no-brainer. They had to throw money at this guy. They needed someone in the secondary ASAP. Joe Hayden was perfect for that job. But when you're going out and getting guys like John Bostic, Morgan Burnett. Morgan Burnett. Guy could barely play in Green Bay. They threw him out of Green Bay like, nah, B, we don't need you no more. Please kick rocks. That's what Green Bay did with Morgan Burnett. Pittsburgh Steelers offered him some cash. He comes over. Yeah, he made a couple decent plays. But he also made some stupid plays as well. This Pittsburgh Steelers, I believe that Kevin Colbert needs to take some of this blame. If Mike Tomlin's fired, I want Kevin Colbert gone too. Change the whole operation, but they won't do that. And I think they should, if they're going to fire Mike Tomlin. Now, this season can be broken down into two parts, in my opinion. Before Jacksonville and after Jacksonville. This team was riding high before Jacksonville. 6 wins, looking good. And one situation happened, changed the whole season. Now, this is where I'm going to go at Kevin Colbert and the Pittsburgh Steelers organization now. Don't worry, I am going to get to Mike Tomlin. I promise you this. But the Pittsburgh Steelers organization and Kevin Colbert did the Steelers an injustice. What happened? It was the one thing they did before the Jacksonville game that kind of told you how the rest of this season was going to go. Do I need to remind you? Good, because I want to. For 10 games, we had this talk of Le'Veon Bell. In or out. We get a new deal. We just come back and play a few games. What was going to happen with Le'Veon Bell? Le'Veon Bell, from what I understand, went to the team. His people, his representation went to the team and said, look, he just wants guaranteed that you guys are not going to franchise him at the end of the season. He'll come back and play the last 6 games of the season. He just wants guaranteed. Guaranteed. What happened? Pittsburgh Steelers said, no, we can't guarantee you that we're going to franchise you, that we won't franchise you after this season. Can't guarantee that. Well, guess what happened? The last 6 games of the season. How should I break this down? Oh, let's have some fun. Okay. Well, first, we struggled against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Then we struggled against, but don't get me wrong, we won the Jacksonville game. But then we go and struggle against Denver. Then we lose. Then we go and struggle against, actually we had the lead in San Diego. Struggled against San Diego. At the end of the game, lost. Had the lead against Oakland, struggled at the end of the game, lost. They beat New England. Oh yeah, they beat New England. I'm gonna clap. No, what we're gonna do is we got these little sound effects. Since the Steelers beat New England, let's give them a round of applause. Okay, they beat New England. We clapped it up for them for beating New England. They barely won that game. New Orleans a week later, a game they should have won. Lost that game. The end. Now they beat Cincinnati, whoop-de-doo. But let's talk about the games that they won and lost during that time. Missing Le'Veon Bell. The difference between the Steelers being in the playoffs and being out of the playoffs is less than, 10 points? You're going to tell me that Le'Veon Bell couldn't make up those 10 points? When he's down, when Ben Roethlisberger's down in the red zone against Denver, and he decides to throw the daggone ball the idiotic way that he anyway. Oh, yeah, he blamed Antonio Brown. He should have ran a better route. Anyway, I digress. You're going to tell me that Le'Veon Bell couldn't score the touchdown to win that game? You're going to tell me that Le'Veon Bell, when the Steelers were up against San Diego, that Le'Veon Bell couldn't run that ball? You're going to tell me Juice, join us in creating excellence, could not? Please tell me that he would not have. Please tell me that he would not have been able to close the game out. You're going to tell me that against the Saints? You know what, Oakland, I'm not even going to complain about the Oakland game because we know what happens in Oakland when the Steelers go to Oakland. I expect that as a loss every time it's on the schedule. This is what's been going on for years. But you're going to tell me that when they were up against the Saints, game on the line. Do you really think that Le'Veon Bell is going to fumble when Stephen Ridley fumbled? Do you really believe that? That's a win. Steelers are in the playoffs right now. They're in the playoffs right now. Had ownership, Kevin Colbert, and you know what? If Mike Tomlin has something to do with it too, then we're going to throw him in there too. Had they just sat there and swallowed their pride and brought this man back for the last 6 weeks of the season. Connor would have got hurt, but you had Bell. Jalen Samuels balled for us. Don't get me wrong. But still would have had the best running back in the league. Matchup problems, big time. You're going to tell me that Le'Veon Bell would not have been able to get us those 10 points that was needed to get to the playoffs this year? I know. I get it. Let's blame the coach for the fumbles, for the interceptions. Do you think that Le'Veon Bell was worth those 10 points that they sacrificed this year in not reaching the playoffs? Please tell me. I'm begging you. I'm begging you. But let's move on. Yeah. The heart of this season comes down to Le'Veon Bell and what they did to him, in my opinion. But we're still looking through the season. Now, Mike Tomlin. People say, "Oh, you think it for Mike Tomlin? Oh, you no. I don't. I'm just fair. See, there's a difference between being a hater and being fair. People call me a Ben Roethlisberger hater. No, I'm just fair when it comes to judging this quarterback. Just like I'm fair when it comes to judging Mike Tomlin. Now, let me give you what Mike Tomlin, again, let's go back to what I said, what he had to do when he got this job. He followed a legend. What was he going to have to compete with? Another legend. Followed the legend of Bill Cowher, had to compete with the legend of Bill Belichick. God damn it. Okay. And let's be real. He's really following the two legends because you still got to fight up against that legend known as Chuck Noll. You still got to fight against that legacy of 5 Super Bowl rings between those two coaches. Same can be said for Ben Roethlisberger. But let's talk about Mike Tomlin for a second. See, Pittsburgh is in a division right now to where you got 2 other teams, now 3. Because Cleveland's in there too now, depending on what they do with their head coach. But you got 3 teams that are competing with you. And it's been this way. It's been 2 teams, at least one, but it's been 2 teams that's been competing with the Pittsburgh Steelers for the past 12 years since Tomlin's taken over the job as head coach. Baltimore, Cincinnati. They rotate or they both come in. One or the others in or both. It does not matter every single year. This is how it breaks down for them. Or they're competitive enough to keep the foot on the Steelers' throats when they have that opportunity to step on their throat. Specifically Baltimore, but Cincinnati's been digging up in that booty sometimes, even though the Pittsburgh Steelers have won the past 8, I believe, against Cincy. So that's cool. But he's been coaching in this division, one of the toughest divisions in the National Football League, and it has been that way since he's gotten in this division. It's not like Pete Carroll had to deal with over in Seattle when that division was falling down. Remember, the NFC West was not as strong. It was starting to fall when Pete Carroll took over that job. Jim Harbaugh and his San Francisco 49ers, their run was practically over when Pete Carroll took that job, when Pete Carroll took over that division. The Rams were the Rams. Who else is over there? Does it even matter? Arizona Cardinals? Should I even mention it? Thank you. This guy had to deal with a division that was very competitive. He's beaten both of these teams in the playoffs. 2008, they had to beat the Baltimore Ravens to get to the Super Bowl. This division has been very competitive, but we don't bring that up anymore. He's held up against Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. No, screw Tom Brady. He's held up against Bill Belichick. When was the last time another team actually could compete with Bill Belichick's teams in the AFC East? What, 2008? That's 10 years ago. And that year, Tom Brady was hurt. So, yeah. Anyway, Belichick still finished 11-5 that year. If it wasn't for the damn Wildcat that year, Bill Belichick would have been in the playoffs that year with Matt Castle as his quarterback. They finished 11-5. They just had 2 losses against the Miami Dolphins that year. Remember, they couldn't stop the Wildcat. But this is who this guy has been competing against since he's gotten in the league. Tomlin has produced some really good teams that have fallen short. I get it. Sometimes when you get into the playoffs, you're not fully staffed, fully manned. The years that Tomlin got to the playoffs recently, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017. Let's break this down. After they rebuilt the defense. Now, people can sit here and say, well, they lost in 2011 to Tim Tebow. The defense, the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, was getting old. So they had to rebuild the defense. Took 2 years to rebuild the defense. They went 8-8 both seasons and almost made the playoffs both seasons. They almost made the playoffs in both seasons. But let's go to 2014. 2014, the team was, it was a good season. Riding high. Ben Roethlisberger threw for almost 5,000 yards. Almost 5,000 yards that year. And when we got to the playoffs, remember that year? Last game of the season, our running back, best player on offense, next to AB, next to Ben Roethlisberger, busted his knee up. We have to play Baltimore a week later in a wild card game with no no Bell. We lose to Baltimore. Now, see, people can say, well, see, they lost in the first round, but okay, that's cool. No Bell, your best running back, probably your second best player on your team, possibly your first. But see, this is where I'm gonna take this conversation here. You're so great, you got a great quarterback. Everyone, your quarterback is so great, $100 million. Why couldn't he beat Baltimore? He couldn't overcome that? Okay. We'll just blame the coach. 2015. The team had to struggle. They struggled to get into the playoffs. Excuse me. They struggled to get into the playoffs, and they got there. Okay? They also had no Le'Veon Bell for those playoffs as well. Can't forget that because Le'Veon Bell got hurt again. So what happens? They go to Cincinnati. And people say they was gifted a victory against Cincinnati. They might have been. But guess what? They found a way to win. They go to Denver. Now, don't forget, in that Cincinnati game, they were without Le'Veon Bell, number one. And number two, they had a couple other people missing in that game too, I believe. But fast forward to a week later, they're now without Le'Veon Bell, and they're now without, oh, goodness gracious, Antonio Brown. They're playing against a great Denver defense and a broken down Peyton Manning. A broken down Peyton Manning's he's better than 25 to 50% of this league, quarterback-wise. But Peyton Manning was able to rally his team to a victory. Oh, but did we forget? The Steelers were on their way to winning that game too, except for Fitzgerald Toussaint, the third string running back, because they were without Le'Veon Bell and they were also without D'Angelo Williams, fumbled the ball. How you doing, Fitzgerald Toussaint? Okay. So we forget about that. 2016. He gets you to the playoffs again. We have a great season 2016. Had some losses, got to the wild card game, spanked Miami. Get to the divisional round, and yeah, they had to kick the field goals to win that game. Chris Boswell, they had to kick a bunch to win that game, but they won. But we forget, leading up to those games and leading up to the AFC Championship game, we finally had our running back, Le'Veon Bell. Go to New England, we're ready to beat New England. And New England, AFC Championship game. First 2 plays of the game, running back gets hurt. Man. Heartbreaker. But, again, we have this $100 million quarterback. Why couldn't he get them over the hump? Steelers barely scored touchdowns in that game. I think the game ended up 37-16. Something along those lines. They still got spanked. Anyway, fast forward to a year later, Jacksonville. Now, the one game that ticked me off with Mike Tomlin in the past couple of years was the Jacksonville game, the playoff game against Jacksonville, because he let his players run their mouth before the game. I put him. That's all on him. You are a leader of your team. Okay, your team wins. I get that. But guess what? 13-3, you're letting your guys run their mouth after they just got spanked against Jacksonville earlier in the season. Remember when your quarterback was saying, yeah, maybe I don't have it anymore? Okay. He didn't look like he had it anymore in that Jacksonville game because they would have 21-0 in that game very quickly. Steelers fought back. Had a chance to win the game at the end, but they didn't. But I go back to Mike Tomlin letting his players run their mouth. That's a big Mike Tomlin problem with this team. The discipline. He's letting these men be men. I get that. But sometimes you got to smack some of these men upside their heads. Not literally. Had this team been more disciplined last year against the Jacksonville Jaguars in the AFC divisional round, Pittsburgh Steelers would have been in the AFC Championship game against Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. Oh, you think I'm joking? Hey, Mike Mitchell, how are you doing? Oh, I forgot Mike Mitchell's on his way to the playoffs with the Indianapolis Colts. I won't bring that up no more. But they would have found a way, in my opinion. I believe if they would have went to New England, they would have found a way to beat New England in that AFC Championship game. They just couldn't stop running their mouth. Couldn't stop running those mouths. Yeah. But I put that on Tomlin. It goes back to the discipline. See, the discipline they were talking about earlier in the year was the penalties. Well, he smoothed that over just a little bit. I'll give him credit for that. Mike Tomlin, I said earlier in the year, after their start 1-2-1, I said I believe Mike Tomlin could turn this thing around, and he did. Won 6 straight games, and then the Le'Veon Bell mess happened, and you know what happened after that. I'm not mad that the Steelers are going to keep Mike Tomlin because they're going to keep Mike Tomlin for one more year at least. But this is what needs to happen. Mike Tomlin got to take some accountability as well as the quarterback, as well as Kevin Colbert. They got to make some tough decisions, and these are the tough decisions that need to be made. And if they want to have a chance to win a Super Bowl next year, this needs to go down. First and foremost, Keith Butler, see ya, goodbye. See ya, goodbye. Keith Butler's defense is probably, he's not creative, number one. I don't see enough creativity for him to keep his job. If Mike Tomlin had to take the play calling duties off of Keith Butler earlier in the year, like people were saying, and they had to implement more of Mike Tomlin's game, which I believe they should have done in the first place, the Tampa 2 should have been the first thing they should have did first day Mike Tomlin was hired. But they didn't do it. They kept the 3-4 and Dick LeBeau. I digress. But if Keith Butler had his play calling duties taken away, then there's no point of keeping you. You got to go. Tomlin can't trust you to call the plays. which is okay. He did an okay job, Tomlin did. Some things got better, I believe, on defense. Some people were saying differently, but who cares? I don't. It's my opinion. Keith Butler goes. Who should we replace Keith Butler with? Who should we replace Keith Butler with? Well, a very interesting name. Actually, there's two interesting names that are out there right now. Two head coaches who were just fired. First guy I'm going to say, and people, this will shock a lot of people because his name will not be brought up as far as defensive coordinator candidate for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I'm going to say Steve Wilks. Steve Wilks was just fired out in Arizona, okay? Which I think is laughable, but we know how things go. Steve Wilks coached a very talented team in Carolina. That's what people thought. They had so much talent on defense. They could replace the coordinator and it's just going to keep rolling. That's what a lot of people said. Steve Wilks left Carolina. Their defense became trash. Check the Pittsburgh Steelers game against Carolina earlier in the year. That just says it. That says everything. Coach Ron Rivera had to take over the play calling duties after that game. I digress. Steve Wilks went to Arizona. Bad team. Bad team. And they tell him, we're going to get a new quarterback. They go and draft the rookie Josh Rosen. Yeah. David Johnson was okay. Not his best year. I think he's coming off of an injury. Larry Fitzgerald, he's still going to be Fitz. But you know what the improvement he brought to that team? Their defense. Their defense was bottom of the league last year. Steve Wilks come in, he makes them a very good defense. And what happened? They fired him. And he did not have the same amount of talent in Arizona as people said he had over in Carolina. But he made that defense better. And they fired him after 1 year. So I'm going to say Steve Wilks. Bring him in. Have a conversation with him, Tomlin. See what he can do for your team. We need to mix it up a little bit more. 3-4, 4-3. We need to mix it up. Why not bring Steve Wilks in? The guy I really want for this job, the defensive coordinator that I want for the Pittsburgh Steelers, he just lost his job recently, today, and he's a Pittsburgh native. And he was a part of this squad when his squad was developing that zone blitz 3-4 defense the Pittsburgh Steelers is famous for. But he made his money off of the 4-3 defense from 1996 to 2000 in Baltimore. His credibility has taken a hit as a head coach, but he has produced winning seasons. Just not a playoff victory. So the person I am thinking of who would be perfect for this job if they don't get Steve Wilks, Marvin Lewis. Marvin Lewis is one of the greatest defensive minds in this game. And you're going to tell me that he couldn't take these guys that we have? TJ Watt, Cam Hayward, Hargrave, Tuitt. You're going to tell me he can't take this front seven and make it better? You're going to tell me he can't take that secondary and make it better? Now, he's going to cost a couple dollars. And we know the Steelers are usually cheap, except for when they wanted to keep Keith Butler on the staff under Dick LeBeau. Air repair. How's that working out? You bring in Marvin Lewis to change this defense, I guarantee you. To coach this defense, I guarantee you'll see changes instantly. They will be ranked in the top 5 with Marvin Lewis as their defensive coordinator. Now Tomlin doesn't have to worry about the defense. He can go back to managing the games, something that I think he is a good coach at. He's very good at managing these games. Does he have some issues? Yes, but he's not perfect. There's only one Bill Belichick, okay? But if you watch the rest of the league like I do, Mike Tomlin is a lot better than a lot of these other coaches that are out here and that people call great coaches, okay? Now, Marvin Lewis as their defensive coordinator, that's called winning. That's called winning. The other changes that need to be made goes to the offensive side. Those changes are, number one, our quarterback has to figure out a way of stop turning the ball over, and you have to find him a suitable running game. I understand they throw to the running backs a lot. I get that. But the problem that the Steelers have is, in today's NFL, running the ball still wins games. See, they want you to believe and trick you into believing that throw. Well, this year we had two teams that threw a lot, and those two teams, Pittsburgh Steelers, are not in the playoffs. And the other team, the Kansas City Chiefs, one and done. I'm going to say that right now. They will be one and done. And they got home field advantage. They have no running game either. That's the problem with today's league. You need a running game still to balance your offense and to help your defense to keep them off the field. Keep that clock moving. That's what the Pittsburgh Steelers lack this year. You cannot throw the ball 67% of the time and expect to make it to the playoffs. It doesn't happen that way. Look at the teams who are in right now. The teams that have the best chance of winning the Super Bowl. New Orleans Saints, they run the ball. Dallas Cowboys, they run the ball. I'm even going to throw Indianapolis in there because they run the ball. Indianapolis found a running game at the end of the season, and look where they're at now. They're in the playoffs. New England has eyes, okay. San Diego, the LA Chargers has a running game. They're in the playoffs. Chicago Bears, Dallas Cowboys, Saints. Goodness gracious, that NFC is looking pretty tough over there. But if the Pittsburgh Steelers want to be in that playoff mix next year, they got to find a good enough running game to go along with Ben Roethlisberger. The short little screen passes are cute, but you need someone who's going to pound that ball for you. I hear Leonard Fournette is available, possibly. They had a running back who did that, but his name is Le'Veon Bell, and he's no longer here. But we're going to wish him well in his future endeavors. I'm going to wrap it up here, and I gave you my issues with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I believe that these things can be. I think these changes. I mean, you get a couple changes in this team. This team could be back to 13-3, hosting playoff games again next year. But until they make these changes, the Pittsburgh Steelers will be sitting at home first week of January watching playoff games like the rest of us. But this was fun. Oh, man, I can't wait. I'm going to continue to do these things. Don't forget, check me out, the Devereux Committee of Pro Wrestling. You can check me out on Spotify. Also, in all the other podcast places. Who cares? But anyway, you can find me. Also, I host the Stephon Devereux Show at night, which is me playing music and talking to my people. So that's every night, Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Angry Kids 24/7 Radio. You can go check that out at Angry Kids 24-7 radio.weebly.com, or you can just Google us. I want to thank you for joining us, and we are out.
You're listening to Angry Kids 24/7 radio. Angry Kids